All right, let's begin. Today we're conducting a doctrinal analysis of the first phase of the operation to relieve the siege of Oviedo. We'll be focusing specifically on the period from July 29th to August 27th, 1936.
Now, I want to be clear from the outset. The entire basis for this briefing is the exceptional work done by Colonel Victor Rodrigo of the Spanish Army. Our analysis adheres strictly to his project, Batallas Guerra Civil, and for those of you who want a more granular study, we strongly recommend you consult his website directly.
Here's our roadmap for this briefing. We'll proceed through 5 distinct sections. First, the mission itself. Then, the initial advances. After that, we'll break down the main two-axis maneuver, look at the final actions on the objective, and wrap up with an analysis of the strategic consequences. Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1, the mission. Here, we'll define the objective and the final outcome of this first phase. So, let's start with the bottom line up front. Phase 1 was a success. The primary operational objective was to link up the coastal and the interior columns at the strategic communications hub of La Espina. That objective was achieved. This action marked the successful conclusion of this initial relief effort. So, how did they get there? That brings us to Section 2, the initial phase. This covers the critical shaping operations on the Leonese front and that first push from Galicia along the coast. The first order of business was to fix the Leonese front to secure the flank of the main advance. As you can see here, between July 27th and August 6th, forces established a firm defensive line running from Riaño to La Magdalena. At the same time, they moved to neutralize minor detachments in the Saboro and La Encina basins. This was an absolutely critical shaping operation. With that flank secure, the main offensive kicked off on July 29th, led by Commander Ciano's column. Now, after some light initial resistance, they crucially prevented the demolition of the bridge over the Yayo River. But then, the column hit its first really organized defensive line at Villapedre. During that assault, Commander Ciano was seriously wounded, and command had to be passed to Commander Tejero. And now we come to Section 3, which really lays out the heart of this operation, the main maneuver. We're talking about a two-pronged advance, with columns pushing simultaneously along the coast and through the interior. The interior axis began its advance on August 1st. What's crucial to understand here is the immediate adaptation to intelligence on the ground. Commander López Pita's column was rerouted to Ponferrada to bypass strong enemy positions and already demolished infrastructure. By August 4th, they reached Parmo del Sil, but destroyed roads there forced a very difficult dismounted advance. Meanwhile, over on the coastal axis, Tejero's column was tied up in heavy fighting to take Luarca. In this battle, it exposed a key enemy vulnerability. While their frontal defense was tenacious, they were highly susceptible to envelopment maneuvers. That's a weakness that was effectively exploited, especially with fire support from the cruiser Almirante Cervera. At the same time, the interior advance was hitting its own critical objective. On August 6th, López Pita's column seized the vital communications hub of Villablino. This was a pivotal move. It forged the link between forces that were advancing from Galicia and those operating out of León, and that solidified the entire southern axis of the operation. Now, it's really important we pause to understand the significant operational friction that was common to both axes of advance. I mean, this was not a simple walkover. They faced an organized, tenacious defense that skillfully used the terrain to its advantage. Constant infrastructure demolition created major logistical hurdles. And the enemy's growing firepower inflicted notable casualties, including, as we've seen, 2 column commanders. All of which brings us to Section 4, Actions on the Objective. This covers the final decisive stage of this phase, and it was defined by a newly unified command and the final convergence of all these forces. And right here, we have the decisive moment of this entire phase. On August 13th, Colonel Martín Alonso takes overall operational command. He immediately unifies the effort, he reorganizes the forces, and he directs both the coastal and interior axes toward a single common objective, the strategic crossroads at La Espina. You could say this was the turning point. Under this new unified command, the coastal columns under Tejero and Castro pushed forward, but the resistance was stiffening. The advance was characterized by very heavy fighting, and on August 26th, a strong enemy counterattack near Bolota actually forced a temporary withdrawal and inflicted heavy casualties. The interior columns were doing the same, converging on Cangas de Narcea and Tineo. But And this is critical, while they were advancing, they were also performing a secondary mission, securing the operation's southern flank by seizing control of the key mountain passes of Oviedo and Ventana.
The whole operation comes to a head between August 25th and 28th. First, on the 25th, Teneo falls after its defenses are cleared out in a bayonet assault. Then, on the 27th, we get the moment everyone was working toward. Lead elements of the coastal and interior forces finally make physical contact. And then, on August 28th, the primary objective of La Espina is occupied and secured. Phase 1 is officially complete.
So with the objective taken, let's move to our final section. Here we'll break down the immediate strategic consequences and the resulting situation on the front. What's really interesting from a tactical perspective is the enemy's reaction. Instead of trying to strike the newly linked-up force at its tip, they applied strong pressure on the now-established Leonese front, hitting the Oviedo and Ventana passes. It was a move that ultimately proved strategically inconsequential.
So, when the dust settled, what did this phase truly achieve? Well, the strategic outcomes were significant, and there were really three of them. 1, the Galician rearguard was now secure from any threat coming out of western Asturias. 2, the Leonese sector was robustly established and controlled. And 3, most critically, a direct line of communication to Oviedo was now open. And you just cannot overstate the morale boost this provided to the besieged garrison inside the city.
And that concludes this doctrinal analysis. For a deeper dive, including detailed order of battle and cartography, we again refer you to the source material at the Battaglia Civil website. Thank you.